Alright guys, today I'm going to talk a little bit about the way that I finish pens. I've been doing a lot of pens lately, and I have a little bit different way for how I finish wood pens, and then how I finish acrylic resin, which are the mainly the ones that you buy in the stores, and they have a sort of a solid sound to them, and also the way that I finish my resin pens, my basically epoxy resin. And you can see here that they have a whole different sound than acrylic pens. So let me move these out of the way and I will get started on the wood one first. So there'll be 3 videos in this series. I don't know if they'll come one after the other, but they will be relatively quick, one behind the other. There may be some in between. But I'm going to start out with this wooden one. Now this particular pen, this is just a slim line. It's actually going to be a pencil. And I start out cutting it with a roughing gouge, and then I go to a skew chisel, finish it up there, and then I sand from 240 down to 600, and that's where I'm at right now before I start putting the finish on it. Now, I'm a modeler, a remote control modeler history, so we've been around CA glue for a long time. And when I worked at Model Airplane News, the magazine for remote control airplanes, I wrote a few articles on different types of glues, and especially CA glues. And so one of the brands that I like is Bob Smith Industries, and I have their thin and their medium here. And I also have their accelerator here. And I also have some Bob Smith's accelerator in the aerosol can, but I'm finishing up my Zap accelerator right now. So I find it funny that I watch many, and everybody has their own technique, and I'm not saying that mine is perfect. It works for me, and maybe it might work for you, but I'll explain why I do what I do on it. I start out with 2 coats of CA thin, and the reason for that is the CA thin is going to soak into the wood, so that's going to give it some grip and some foundation. Now, thin CA doesn't really thicken that much, whereas the medium CA will thicken and create a coat. So that's why I put the medium CA on after the thin CA. So to put them on, I just use the blue paper towels. Let me go get another one because I got a feeling I'm going to need one here. So I use the blue paper towels like these to apply the CA. And I also, when I turn at 3,500 is what the maximum speed is this particular lathe. And when I go to put this CA on, what I do is I actually will turn it on, and I'll get it down to the slowest position where it stops, and I just turn it up just so it barely gets going. I think that's right around 300 revolution. Yeah, 324 is what it says. And most of the time I have gloves on. I generally have a glove on. I should have that on to show you, and that's very bad of me not to do that. But I'm already situated, and I've got the film rolling, so I'm going to go ahead and just rough it here. But all I do is I just run across here with the thin CA, just one time, right across, and then I will speed it up a little bit and hit it with the accelerator. Just a quick shot of accelerator, and then I will take a dry paper towel and speed it up some more and just run that right across just to make sure everything is dry, and sort of buff it just a tiny bit, not too much. And I got up to about 1,700 right now. And I'm going to bring it back down to stop, and I'm going to go back to rolling again. And then I'm going to take the thin CA, and I'm going to use the other side of my paper towel, which is still dry, and then go ahead and apply another coat of thin CA right across it. And now you got to be careful, because once you get the accelerator on there, what's going to happen is that when you go to put the other CA on there, the residue of the accelerator, it's going to start working on that. If you get CA on your hands and you get accelerator on your hands, it does heat up pretty quick. That's why it's always a good idea to wear gloves. Now, I've been around CA all my life, and that's no excuse. I should still stay safe. But like I said, camera's rolling, so I'm taking chances here. All right, so I'm going to buff this one out. And then that's all the thin CA that I'm going to put on there. I'm just going to do 2. And you see that already that we have a pretty good shine, and it feels pretty smooth. Like I said, thin CA doesn't really thicken up too much. Now, maybe other brands do, I don't know, but this brand does not. Now, for the medium CA, I do this a little bit different. I actually go to the non-aerosol accelerator. And what I will do with that is I will have another cloth, and this is where you can get burned pretty quick if you're not careful. And I will fold this into quarters, and I'll actually spray this, and I'll show you what I do here. So I got myself a new paper towel here just for applying this stuff. And turn this on slow. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna put the CA on the paper towel right in this corner here and rub it across there and just go back once across and then come this way. And when you do that, you'll see that you have a little bit of a line going across there. You're creating sort of a thread almost on there with CA. So you wanna get rid of that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray the accelerator, and I'll do this over here, onto this rag. Now I'm gonna speed it up a little bit, but I'm just barely touching the rag across here. And all this is doing is this is knocking down any ridges that may still be on there. And then I'm gonna speed this up a little bit more, and I'm gonna start adding a little bit more pressure on the rag now that everything is a little bit dry. But the accelerator is gonna sort of blend it down into it. So again, I'm gonna go a little bit faster and then get up to speed here. Now normally I would use the CA bushings, but this is just a slimline pen, so I have a bunch of these 7mm bushings, so I'm not doing that. So again, back to the slow speed, and I'm gonna make sure I wipe off my hand with the accelerator so that I don't activate anything hot on this particular rag here, or any uncured CA. And now I'm gonna go back and apply another coat right on there, and I can feel right away that this thing is heating up. And this is where you can get burnt relatively easy. And this particular one is dust. I only use that twice because that's all that you can use that for. And the thing about accelerator is that just the fumes really will cure the CA. It doesn't even have to touch. And now I'm just starting to apply pressure. So once you spray the paper towel, you have these fumes that are coming off, and they're actually activating the CA. So, and I'll just buff this down pretty good. And the main thing, is to make sure that you cover down here of your ways here, because you don't want them to get all messed up with CA. Now it has a pretty decent coat. This is just after 2 coats, so it's not too bad, and it has a little bit of ridges, but nothing really that's going to hurt anything. And this is easily going to be sanded out with the micro mesh on the next step. So I'm grabbing a new cloth here for the CA, and I'm going to put it on another coat. And this is my 3rd coat, and I'll probably put 4 to 5 to 6 coats, depending on how it's looking. And again, make sure you keep your accelerator away from your CA applicator, because you drop the CA on it with the accelerator, and you're going to have some very heavy-duty ridges on your pen. So you want to make sure that those two stay away. Now, the accelerator rag I pretty much use for the entire process. I don't change that too much because not much gets on it, and you can just sort of flip it over to the other side if you'd like. And again, just buffing it out with the accelerator on. Let it dry here a little bit. And again, this is all nice and dry, and it's pretty smooth. I mean, it's got little ridges in it, but it's relatively smooth, so it's not too bad. So this one still has one spot that's good. And again, because my hand was with the accelerator, I want to try and keep it below that. Even if I have gloves, I'm going to keep it below the wet spot on the rag from the last time. So turn this on. Apply another coat. And again, you want to get this coat on quick because the other accelerator, see, look, I even had a little bit of CA right there, and it stuck to me. So I want to make sure that it dries before I do the accelerator, because that will heat it up rather quickly. And I'll show you an easy way to get this off, by the way. So I'm gonna spray and crank this up a little bit and just barely touching it again, just so I smooth it out. And then as I speed it up and as the accelerator is drying it, Now I find this method works better than spraying accelerator on, because what happens if you have some ridges and you spray accelerator on, the drops can also, you know, sort of create some ridges if it's pretty wet. And by doing it this way, you smooth out everything at least as much as you can. And by the way, if you ever get the accelerator on there, there is accelerator remover. Bob Smith sells it, everybody does. And you definitely want to get a bottle of that whenever you buy CA glue. So if you buy CA glue, also make sure you get the debonder. Most important. You can do it with a acetone, but the debonder does seem to work better. All right, so it looks like we're doing pretty good there. Got a good bit of a ridge there, but that's not bad there. I think that'll be okay. So I'm just going to put one more coat, I think, of CA on this, of medium CA, and I'm going to get myself a new rag here to use. All right. So again, slow speed, and again, this one's at 324. I make a puddle on my rag and on my cloth here, and I just go back once and come back, and if I see a ridge, I will try to smooth that out a little bit. But you don't want to go back and forth too many times, because what's going to happen is that the paper towel is going to start to stick. And so that would not be good. So speed it up. Let's see, I got about a 420. And I'm just going across there lightly, and then I'm just sort of rotating it up as I start pressing more and more until I get to my top speed here. All right, so the last one, I'm going to sort of let this accelerator go over quite a bit just to make sure everything is dry. Yeah, it's going pretty fast. All right, so that's all the CA that I'm going to put on these here. I think that was, what, 4 coats? We'll count it. I'm not sure. But like I said, 4 to 6 coats is about what I do normally. Now, after that, I go to the micro mesh system, and I have these pads here, and I do all 4 of them. And I like to do it to sand wet. I find that it gives me a smoother finish, a better finish. Now the first pad that you're going to use is the, has the biggest grit. Let me see, I'm going to move this on over here, get it out of my way here. There we go. That'll work better. So this is the roughest grit here. And I'm just going to turn this up to about, I don't know, 900 or so. And I'm going to start moving this pad. Make sure that you move this pad around and make sure that it is relatively wet. You don't want it to get too hot, because you can burn through these pads if you get it too hot. I'm going to move this up to a little faster and come across on this one. Generally, I'm doing this standing up, so I'm not used to sitting down doing this, but I kind of like this, actually. I did this for the camera. It's a little easier to film if I'm sitting down. So you want the slurry to start building up, and like I said, this one I use the most here. And this is going to be the one that's going to get rid of all the ridges and smooth everything out. So after that, in between each coat, I try to dry it with the paper towel. And I'll turn this off here and look. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for how many ridges. Now this one is pretty good. This one, almost all the ridges are out. And you can tell because everything is dull all the way across. And here I have some bright spots and ridges here. So this is going to require a little bit more sanding on this one here. So I will get the same grit and put up to about 1,000 and sand across there. Now, you want to be careful with this particular grit and the next few in the micro mesh system, because they do remove quite rapidly. I mean, you don't think they do, but they actually cut really, really good. And even the older ones, this one's been used quite a bit. So, bring this down here, and this spot is the part that had the ridges, and let's see what we have now. All right, so yeah, so now when I look across there, I got tiny bits of bright little ridges there, but nothing that's connected. I mean, it's just little spots. So I think this is good, and I can move on to the next. All right, so then I go on to the next grit down. And again, the same speed. Now I got it about 1,300 is what I'm spinning it out. And I'm going to go across this one, and I'm going to work this one a little bit. The first one is the main grit to get everything down. You can see that it's drying pretty quick now, because that generally happens when it's pretty smooth, because it doesn't leave much in the way of slurry behind. And let me just clean this off, and I'm gonna take a quick look at this one. And now everything is the same sheen to it. So it all looks really, really good. There's a little bit right there. So I think I'm gonna do that a tiny bit more in that one spot. Actually, those two spots right there. So let it get up to speed. And you don't want to over grind it. You want to just do just what you need on the pen as far as sanding it down. And I'll clean that, stop this one. And now, yes, he got rid of that just nice, yeah. Tiny bit there at the very end. Yeah, right at the end there, so I'm gonna get that a little bit more. All right, so I'm not the second to last one. And like I said, the first one is the longest, the second one, and then after that, these are all just coming one after the other just to smooth up what was there before. And before I do the last one, I'm just going to make one last check to make sure. And this almost has a mirror finish already, and I can tell by the reflection of the light going across there. This looks really, really good already. So my last one, and this is the 12,000 grit. And this is doing more polishing than it is anything else. It's almost like a polishing grit, but it still is. And again, that's why the first one, you want to do all of your shaping with that one, because if you want to shape something with this, it's just not going to happen. You'll be here just way too long. I don't care how fast this thing is spinning. Okay, so come across there with that. All right, that looks really, really good. I mean, that's just got a beautiful finish. It's a very thick coat. It looks really nice. And so the final thing I'm gonna do is I got Axe polishing abrasive. Now, I do use the Axe paste sometimes, but this one has such a nice finish on it that this, I think, is a 1,000 grit or 1,200 grit. So the sanding pad actually went a little more than that one. So I'm just gonna grab a new piece here and apply some of the polishing compound to it. And you don't need much of this. I say don't need much, but I actually just put on too much. So I just want to get it around here, and I'm gonna bring down my speed to low speed first, and just sort of use the wet paper towel with the polishing paste on, and just go back and forth just to set this in there pretty good. And then after that, I'm going to use an old t-shirt. And just be careful when you're using, I'll use a smaller piece. When you're using material, because material can catch and really pull. So you always want to hold the material so that if it ever catches, it will just take off. You know, you won't get caught up get twisted up in it. So in this case, I'm gonna turn it relatively high. As a matter of fact, 1782 is what it's at. And I want to get it to where I get most of the residue off. Then once most of the residue is off, then I'm going to pull around it like that just to create a little bit of heat. You don't want to get too carried away in the heat. All right. Now this looks really, really good. And you can look at the reflection of the light and you'll see it almost looks like a double flame. You'll have a light path and then another one inside it. And that's sort of what I've been told that you want to look at, and that's by a good friend of mine who knows what he's doing. And let me show you my other secret weapon here. I actually got this, the marine polish and sealer that I purchased. And this does a really good job of adding a finish seal to, oops, as I get this stuff. And you can tell it's relatively new because when you open it, it just shoots all over. I was actually at a boat show and found this stuff, and I thought, well, you know, that's supposed to be pretty good for marine stuff. It should work for my pens. Now, the nice thing about this is this has a very high UV rating, so it knocks down the UV, which is what actually cracks the pens and decolors them when you're using the CA glue. So my theory is that if this has a high UV protection, it's going to help my pens not wear if they're sitting out in the sun for a long period of time. And it's especially important to somebody that's like selling their pens at a trade show or something like that. I don't do any of that, so I'm not knowledgeable on that at all. But friends of mine that do that, they tell me of that issue, and this is my answer to it. Again, all theory, nothing proven yet. So after I put on that, I'm just going to hit this once with this. And again, you know, I could have used two coats of the Act polish paste, and I could use 2 coats of these, but seeing as how we're going through this video, and I want to show you what I do, and that looks just fantastic. I mean, that is just a mirror smooth piece right there. And the wood looks great too. I love this wood here. And I wish I knew what it was, but it was in a bunch of pen blanks. I'm not sure, but it is beautiful. It has a nice green pattern. And this finish just looks really good. So I'll take it on over there. What I'm gonna do is I'll pull it apart and I'll sand the ends a little bit, make sure that any CA that's there. So I'm very happy with the finish I have on this pencil, this slimline pencil. I think it came out great. It has a lot of depth to it. I mean, that's the nice thing about CA. It just seems like it's really a thick coat of shiny lacquer on it. But the nice thing is it's durable. It's a really durable finish once you have it applied and put on there, and it's going to last the lifetime of the pen. So hopefully the close-up video does it justice. Stay tuned. If you like what you see here, please do subscribe, because I'm going to show you how to do acrylic finish, and then how to do a finish on your own poured epoxy resin pen blanks. So if you enjoy, please stick around for more. So I'm really happy with the way this pencil came out. Hopefully the close-up view does it some justice and show you the finish. It's a really glossy finish. Looks like it's a really thick coat on there. The nice thing about CA glue is that it's durable, so this thing can take a beating and still look good. Easy enough to polish out. I'm really happy with it. So if you enjoyed this, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and I have all the links below for everything you need to put one of these pens together yourself.